Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here. I'm doing my top 10 moments from the Microsoft E3 2018 or 2019, sorry, press conference. I was looking at my old thumbnails. So this will of course be my top 10 things that really caught my interest for this press conference. It's not really like a grade for the conference overall as far as like, they did a bunch of this or not enough of that. It's legitimately just, as I do every year, it's legitimately the things that caught my attention most, not really the things that I think are most important. It's legitimately just like, I like this genre more than another genre. So for, some games I like, some games I don't, because I might not play that franchise. So my lists always come out really weird because I'll be like, yeah, that super big staple franchise, I've never even played the first one. It's stuff like that. So my list might be super weird, but of course we'd love to know your top moments and what you guys thought about the press conference overall, of course. But getting right into it, my number 10, I got my whole list here, plus I do have a couple honorable mentions because admittedly, Microsoft threw a bunch out, probably because of the whole, it was like, Sony's not here, we need to throw everything we got. So I do have a few honorable mentions, but starting out at number 10, we have Bleeding Edge, which is the new Ninja Theory 4v4 game. That's my number 10 because it really caught my interest. I like Ninja Theory. I think combat-wise, great stuff. I like Hellblade as much as I don't really like DMC as like a thing. The combat was still fun, even though also most of the moves were admittedly taken from the old Devil May Cry, which thank goodness that came back. But I was like, all right, they still did some good work there. I love Hellblade in itself, even though that has more to do with the story elements. But I was like, they do good combat. They know at least how to do certain things, and it's entertaining. So I was like, I'm curious to see how that plays out. Not 100% sure I'll end up buying it because obviously it's just a 4v4 game. I doubt there's going to be any like real story mode, but I thought the design was cool. I was like, all right, the characters look really interesting and weird, kind of the Overwatch aesthetic, but just a totally different style of how crazy they really are. Especially the character, like there was one character that didn't even have like a bottom mouth, and it was like this hardcore metal character, and it was like breathing fire, and I was like, is that a playable character? Because that seems insane. But I liked it. I was like, the design of the over the top character seems entertaining, and ultimately we'll see how crazy they get with it. Because I was like, all right, so far it's just like cool looking characters, 4v4, so at least 8 characters. I think the character that was like breathing fire was like a ninth character. I think they may have shown like 10 characters ultimately. And I was like, okay, not a ton of people, but it's a 4v4 thing. Is it going to come out as a $60 game? That sort of thing. I was like, that's not a lot of characters. But at the same time, it's like, we'll see what they do. And with it being Ninja Theory, I'm like, all right, I have a bit of faith on that. So for me, that was my number 10 moment. Number 9, this is where I think things are going to get like super crazy as far as like my list being super weird. Number 9 for me, admittedly, was the new console. I was like, all right, Project Scarlet's coming out. I hadn't heard about it until like right before because like some of my friends mentioned it. I was like, oh, I didn't know anything about that leak. All I'd been hearing was PS5 and the new Switch, or whatever they were gonna do with that. So I didn't know anything about them coming out with the new console for Microsoft. But even with them announcing it, it was like, okay, interesting, should be cool. 8K SSD, AMD. Just all the big numbers. And I was talking to my friend at work, and it was like, it's kind of funny because that's what happened with the Xbox One X. And the same thing that's happening right now is exactly what happened back then, which was like, they're just throwing out words. They're throwing out teraflops and this and 4K and all that. It's not possible. And they totally pulled through with the Xbox One X. So I'm like, I don't doubt that they're going to do it. But also, it's 8K gaming, even if that is 100% true. And that does somehow play out, considering 8K TVs are like $30,000. Even if that does play out, I will never have that console. I'll have kids by the time I buy that console because I'm not getting that within 3 years unless I just get crazy rich. I'm not gonna have that console. Like that's just not gonna happen because not only would I have to pay what I assume, that's the big thing. I'm like, how is this gonna come out and somehow manage to not be on the PS3 levels, if not more? Like it would have to be more than $600. And I'm like, how is it possible for this thing to come out with 8K graphics and everything they're doing, SSD, all the internal stuff, and it's not like $1,000? So I don't know. We'll see what really happens with the 8K stuff. But I was like, even if it's true and it's 100% successful, that'll be cool for YouTube videos for me to watch. But I'm not gonna buy the console and then also have to buy a TV to really see 8K graphics. So I was like, yeah, it's cool and it'll be nice when it happens. But whatever, that's just how it goes. So that's my number 9. Going to number 8, I actually have Legend of Right. This is the game that seems like, pseudo hack and slash, but it seemed like it's like a bunch of genres in one. But it's the game that took place like inside of a notebook. Is like all drawings and stuff, and some of it was like pop out, like a pop up book. I thought that was really cool. That was really what caught my interest in it. I like the aesthetic for it. I like how there were a lot of different genres because it seemed like it did like side scrolling 2D, also platforming, and then it seemed like it kind of had some RPG elements and stuff like that too. And I was like, this seems like it'll be a cool, kind of pseudo indie game. It seemed like it had, a bit higher production than just an indie game. But I was like, that seems really cool. I like that idea. So it just caught my attention, and I was like, yeah, it just stands out, and it seems more entertaining. Plus, the whole console thing, a part of where my stuff ranks is like attainability. Like I said, I'm not gonna be able to afford that whole console, but I could probably afford like this little game. So I thought it was cool. I definitely enjoyed, like I said, the aesthetic of it. Thought it was entertaining. So I'm looking forward to more on that. I'll have to check. I'm sure there's a demo or some more content up as far as E3 this week. I'm sure somebody got a demo and interview somewhere, so I have to look it up. But moving on from that, we actually have something that is relevant as far as like Xbox themselves, and that is the Game Pass Ultimate. I thought that was cool. I was like, all right, this is $15 a month. It replaces Xbox Live if you get it. You get Game Pass Ultimate, so it means you get like tons and tons of games. You get Xbox Live Gold. You also get it. Basically, you get I think it's like PC Game Pass. It's like the same thing. So I was like, all right, that seems cool. Another part of it is like, the whole streaming element and, everyone, I mean, geez, that was like the biggest push in the universe this year. Like everything it's either 3D, VR, and now it's streaming because everybody seemed to have streaming. But in this case, Xbox has been doing it for a minute. They have, their old catalog. They were showing off like basically new games. Like Metro Exodus was one of the ones they actually like said on stage. And I was like, all right, they're doing recent stuff. It's like boom, $15. You get games like this. You get games like that. You get all these older games. You get this coming out. If I remember right, for $15, they kept saying it. They said it a few times. I think they mentioned it with like Gears. It was like, if you have Game Pass Ultimate, you get like the ultimate edition of these games. Whatever DLC was going to be in the special edition or whatever, you'd get all that stuff. You also get access, I think it was specifically for Gears, they mentioned it was like 4 days early if you get it on Game Pass Ultimate. Little stuff like that makes a streaming service more entertaining because it's like, all right, $15 a month already isn't that bad, especially depending on what you do. Like for people that are on YouTube and on Twitch, it's like, all right, well, I get $15 a month. I can just shoot through a million different games and have like all sorts of videos and footage and content. So that works perfectly for those type of people. And even for people that just like to play games a ton, where it's like, all right, do I buy these games? Do I buy those games? You go $15 a month, you stream it, you got a strong enough PC or anything like that, you're good to go. And I thought that was great. So I love that idea. Not sure when I'll jump on board and really kind of get into that stuff, but I thought it was cool because I was like, all right, at some point it will get to, a level where even on consoles, it'll just be like Steam, where it's like, there's so many games I wish I could get, but instead of doing it all physical, it'll just be like, well, as much as I'd like to have a physical copy, I'll just pay $15 and I'll just shoot through all these games. And if I keep the $15 a month, I just, keep doing it, I'll be able to keep playing those games. I can always go back to it, or I can spend $15 and be like, all right, I kind of like this again. So for me, it's kind of in the middle, but it's a little bit on the higher end because they were putting a lot of stuff into it. It wasn't just, you can play these games, as their service. Now they're kind of adding to it where it's like you also get the Xbox Live Gold with it because before it was a separate thing. So $15 includes that now. And I think that's probably the biggest thing to it. Like it's not just the streaming service. It's the online portion of the gaming, plus you get the streaming service, plus the added addition of earlier access to the games, 4 or 5 days early, plus the extra DLC if you were if you're buying the physical version of like a deluxe edition and stuff like that. I think that's great. For $15, that I thought was a phenomenal deal. So I was like, all right, I think that's good. And we'll kind of just have to see where they go with it. Exactly what games they're going to be able to get. I would assume they'd have, obviously all the Xbox exclusive games. So Halo Infinite, coming out, all the Gears games, stuff like that. You can go through Gears 1 all the way up to 4 and then eventually 5. Stuff like that. I thought it was a good idea for pretty much everything that they have and whatever is going to be coming out a little bit later, cross-platform stuff. So I thought that was great. Plus, it also adds newer games that I think weren't on 360, like some of the stuff that was only PC. So like there's just a lot to it, and I was like, that's a good deal, and it's only $15 a month. That's a lot of good content, especially considering the like I said, the Metro Exodus stuff. So they're doing things that are fairly recent for you to get, and I'm sure day of type stuff as they said with Gears. So I was like, yeah, $15 a month is pretty great. So I thought that was phenomenal. We'll just have to see if I can even afford to do all that stuff. I still got so many games on Steam to play. I'm like, it'll probably be a minute before I get there, but that's a good deal for a lot of people. So I thought that was great. Number 6, actually, super indie looking game. Once again, it was Way to the Woods. It was the little deer game, and I was like, it was Journey vibes, and I was just like, I just feel like I love that game. That was legitimately it. It was like a cute. I love the art style of it. So the cell shaded style, and you have like the deer leading the doe, and I was like, this is cool. It just seems like it'll be an interesting little game. Slight puzzle elements. I like the aesthetic of like, you have to utilize light and actually go through the level, and you like absorb the light if you like do a little scream or whatever. And I was like, I like that element. It seems like, there's puzzle mechanics, there's dark. We don't, see too much of the actual threats, but I'm sure there's going to be like actual physical stuff. It also seemed like slightly post-apocalyptic, considering it's, two deer, they were like going through a train station and stuff. And I was like, I feel like we're going to pick up some interesting story elements from that. But even if we don't, it just seems like one of those games that I would really enjoy. Like, it's one of those, like Journey, just one of those calm, peaceful games where it's like, this is nice and relaxing. I've already heard stuff where people are like, maybe, the deer that you play as the adult gets killed, some Bambi type stuff. Hopefully that doesn't happen. That would be messed up. But I wouldn't be too shocked, I guess. So, we'll see what happens with that. But it just really caught my attention. I was just like, man, something about it. You got a brand new console coming out, but sometimes just the smallest little indie game is just hit you, where it's just like, that seems really cool. So, what the heck was it called again? Way to the Woods. I was about to call it like A Way to Deer or something. I'm like, I know that's not right. Way to the Woods. I think that'll be pretty cool. So moving on from that, we have number 5, which oddly enough is Gears 5. Have not played Gears of War since Gears of War 2. I would love to play it. If I had Windows 10, I would have bought the collection when I think 4 came out, and they were doing like, if you buy 4, you get like all the other games. But you have to have Windows 10 to do the Xbox Live game stuff, which is another reason I might not get the Game Pass anytime soon, because I'd have to buy a new laptop. But Gears 5 looked good. I thought it was really entertaining what we got to see, even though technically everything we got to see was from like a new bonus mode and not necessarily the story, which I'm fine with, because technically they probably would have just been spoilers for me. Like, I know there's some hints and some weird stuff going on there. I was like, oh, that's interesting. But if they ever went into any real detail, I'd be like, oh, that sucks. That's spoiled for me. Which technically happened, I think, last year when they announced it, which I thought was weird. They showed, from what I remember, they showed actual gameplay last year, plus like a cutscene and stuff, because that's where they showed, that was the first time they showed the main character from the last game, whose name I totally can't remember, where he's like bald now and he's got like the big beard. And I was like, oh, that's interesting to see him like that. So we don't actually see that. We get like the trailer. They use Billie Eilish and stuff in this one, but they show off their new mode, which is only 3 players. So it's the 3-player mode. It's called Escape Mode, and I thought it looked really cool, even though it's just a cinematic trailer. I was like, okay, they have different style, and there was some stuff I saw in an interview where they mentioned that that's how the characters look because it's more of a stealth thing. So that's why they don't have like the big full-on suits. I was like, that's cool. The electric knife was probably my favorite part of it, like the whole way through. I was like, that's super sweet. So I love that. And then, of course, they threw in, it was like, boom, surprise, Terminator characters. I was like, well, that's super cool. Also very weird, because I was like, is there Mortal Kombat supposed to have Terminator? So Terminator's just all over that effing place. And I'm pretty sure somebody else had Terminator. I think it was Ubisoft. Like, there were like 3 different Terminator, or 2 Terminator things just at E3. And I was like, dang, Mortal Kombat was supposed to get Terminator. Then they're like, boom, we got Terminator in Gears, which is not just the T-1000, because I saw in the interview, you can play as Sarah Connor. So they'll have the T-1000, Sarah Connor. I would assume they would have whatever the number is going to be for the new Terminator from Dark Fate, the Hero Terminator. And then they might have the skin for the guy that's the villain in the new Terminator as well. Even though he just looks like a normal dude, and technically the woman just looks like a normal woman. But it's like, you have Sarah Connor. It's like, that's, sure, that's classic. And they might even be the young version of Sarah Connor. They might do both, which I think would be really cool. But you can play as like a T-1000, which that's just super cool. They probably won't have the T-800. Well, I guess no, it's the T-800. The T-1000 is Liquid Terminator. Sorry. So they have the T-800, but they probably won't have the T-800 with the Arnold skin, because based on some leaks and whatnot, that should be in Mortal Kombat 11 coming out pretty soon. So I don't know. I still thought that was crazy, because I was like, wow, they got Terminator stuff just all over that for play. So that got my interest. But it was mostly just the Gears 5 in general. The new mode looks really cool. I gotta check out some gameplay for it. I saw like a tiny bit. They have like some ice gun, which was probably in the last game anyway, or shoot, it could have been in the last 3 games. I wouldn't know, but it looks cool. Like Gears, I think always looks entertaining. It's just like I just don't have an Xbox to play it, and I don't have Windows 10 now to get it on PC. But I like what we got to see from that. Even though once again it was a lot of cinematics, so it was all cinematics, and that's pretty much it. But I was like, okay, looks entertaining. I'm excited to check that out. Moving on to number 4, though, we actually have another little thing here. Actually, I think I did my number wrong. Moving on to I have my numbers backwards here. But moving on to number 4 is actually Borderlands 3. I didn't think I'd have any interest in that, to be totally honest. I thought, sure, Borderlands is coming out. I like Borderlands. I've played the first one. I have the second one. I have the pre-sequel. My laptop's so old, the second game literally just like would not get past the opening screen. So that always sucked. Like it would do the opening video and then it would get to the menu and it would just die, and it just never worked. So I haven't played 2. I just bought the Handsome Collection because I don't know if it's still on sale. I would highly recommend getting it if you haven't gotten it already. But it was like $3. And it was all this DLC, and it's like it said it was like 97% off. It was like $140 something, and it was like, yeah, it's $387. I was like, I'll get that, sure, because I already had 2, but I was like, I'll get the pre-sequel. Plus, you get all the DLC for 2 and all the DLC for the pre-sequel, which I believe also includes the new DLC that they mentioned, where it was like, hey, surprise, we have new Borderlands 2 content that bridges the gap between Borderlands 2 and Borderlands 3. So I thought that was a really cool thing as well, because I was like, all right. You got the new game coming out. It looks cool. I always love, there's always like one character that always hits me. It's the new Siren. When I first saw her and she had like the Asura's Wrath thing going with like this extra arms and stuff, I was like, yeah, she's going to be the character I play as. And then I didn't realize that was a Siren thing. But then it was like, oh, she's a Siren too. So that was super cool. They got some new stuff coming in. There's like, I believe it was during that trailer where they show like a little kid training to try to be a Siren with the woman from the second game. So I was like, all right, that's pretty cool. So there are new Sirens, and they reference stuff like that. They technically threw a spoiler in there, once again, me being super behind on everything. I was like, oh, how's she not a Siren anymore? That's weird. So I'm excited to see how in the world that happened. But I was like, yeah, that looks cool. Guns and guns and guns. Claptrap chasing a walking gun, which is kind of funny. But I thought it was a cool looking trailer. You see all the characters, you see them fighting together. You get the stuff, the Sanctuary thing where you have, I want to say her name was Lilith, if I'm not mistaken, her kind of leading this fight going into the 3rd game. But it looks really good. I was like, I like this. I'm surprisingly excited for it. I was always like, yeah, Borderlands is entertaining. Playing the first one is really fun. I always like the characters. I like Tales of the Borderland. I have seen that game all the way through. So I am excited to see story-wise where they're going, since they're bringing those characters back into the game, or at least the guy from it. So I was like, man, I'm surprised how excited I am for that game. And it was really that trailer, because I'd seen other footage where a bunch of YouTubers went and they had the big, reveal event. And I was like, oh, that looks entertaining. That's pretty cool. But it was this specific trailer, seeing extra content, getting that story stuff in there, and then them being like, yep, surprise, like I said, the extra brand new DLC that's already out now. I was like, that actually seems really, really cool to me. So I like the element. I thought that was a nice surprise to have that bridge between the 2 games just get released like that. Like, yep, this game's coming out, and it's coming out this year. I want to say it's November, if I'm not mistaken, but it's coming out this year, and they throw in, it's like, boom, this game. It's technically 2 games old if you count the pre-sequel as well as Tales of the Borderlands. Borderlands 2 is like 2 games ago, and they just got new DLC. So it's kind of really funny when you look at it in that in that specific aspect, but chronologically it makes sense that would be the game to have the DLC. But I thought that was kind of funny. I was like, man, that's so weird. Like the second game, we're going technically to the 5th game now, and the second game just got extra DLC to bridge the gap between the 2. So I was like, that's kind of funny, but looked really cool. Loved the trailer. So somehow they actually got me excited for a game that I still know that I'm not gonna get as excited as I was. I'm like, I still haven't beat 2 pre-sequel. Got to get a new laptop just to even play 2. So hey, it is what it is, but I'm still excited for that. But moving on to number 3. Another indie game, 12 minutes. I thought that was a phenomenal trailer for that, and it just really caught my attention, and that's all there is to it. I just thought it was a really good interactive trailer that they had, or well, it wasn't interactive, but a really good trailer that they had, saying it's an interactive thriller game. I saw a bit of an interview after the conference. Multiple endings, normal stuff, like you have to figure out how to do this and how to do that. So I'm sure they have a ton of endings. I will wait to see, of course, exactly, as with anything, I could be the most excited for whatever. except for like if it's Resident Evil, I'm gonna buy it, or Bayonetta. But for pretty much anything else, it's like I'll wait and we'll see what happens. But with that, I was like, man, it really hooked me. It just caught my attention. I like it. I'm a sucker for any time based. Back to the Future. So I'm a sucker for anything time based. And I was like, oh well, how did they might not even answer the question, and it's like, how's he in the time loop? But just the element of like, this woman killed her father, and then this cop comes who may not actually be a cop, and little stuff like that. And they show the things where like one ending he gets beat up, one ending they both get arrested, one ending he actually ends up killing his wife, one ending they're in bed. So I assume that's like a decent, good ending. So it's like, how many endings are there? Is it possible that this does extend beyond the room? I doubt it, based on how they've shown, how I've seen some of the repeat stuff. Like basically, if you go down, he starts like right in front of the door again. So it was interesting. So I was like, all right, it probably is legitimately just in the apartment, and like we saw the bedroom, so we probably see inside of the bathroom as well, like during the scene when he actually ends up killing her by mistake, or however that plays out. So that one really caught my attention. I was like, this is super freaking sweet. Something about it just seemed like it's a fun story. Like I said, sucker for a time loop, which time loops were all over that from Place at E3 this year. Like there are a lot of stories where it was just like, this is time based and that's time based time stuff. But it really caught my attention. So number 2, I think might be an obvious one, like based on some of the things that I haven't referenced yet. Number 2 for me is Obsidian's Outer Worlds, and I was like, this is sweet. I was already excited for it. It's the people that made Fallout. They made Fallout New Vegas, which everybody loves, and it's like, all right, they're doing Fallout in space. I just can't wait to see that. And they show the classic stuff. It's like, oh, you can be a hero, you can be a villain, or you can be a psycho. It's like, oh, thanks for helping me out. Here, this gun could probably do more for you than me. And then they kill the dude after they help him, and then he gives him a gun. It's like, please, and then boom, you're dead. I was like, that's Fallout. That's Fallout stuff right there. So that was cool. I really enjoyed it. I loved every single thing we got to see. Plus, it was like, it was Fallout mixed with Rage, if I'm not mistaken, because I want to say Rage was the game I'm thinking of, where stuff like you can like mess people up and they go in slow motion. Or maybe I'm thinking of Bulletstorm. Maybe it was Bulletstorm, because I know you can do that in Bulletstorm. But it was like people were getting like pulled towards you, and then you go in slow motion, then you hit them with the blast. And I was like, them having the Fallout concept in space plus superpowers and stuff like that, I was like, I can't wait to see how that plays out. And I would love to know the story as a whole, just like from A to B. What's this game? Like, what is the main thing that you do? How many worlds do we get to go to? Stuff like that. Is it just one world? I think we've already seen, maybe from the very first trailer, that you do go to other worlds. But I was like, I want to see this. I can't wait to play this game. I'm super excited for it. So Obsidian is making space Fallout. Can't go wrong with that. And it's funny how much it still looks like New Vegas. Like, it was funny when they showed it. I was like, it's insane how I can see it's like the graphics, definitely a million times better. Like, the graphics look amazing. But in that dude's face, when they zoomed in, I was just like, that looks exactly like Fallout New Vegas. It was almost like they had a mod for Fallout New Vegas, and it was just like the way the guy's face was textured specifically. It was just like, that looks like Fallout New Vegas. It was so weird. It wasn't like I see Fallout 4 or I see Fallout 3. It was like, I see Fallout New Vegas. Maybe it was because the dude was specifically hit on the sun and it was like orange and everything, and it's, Fallout New Vegas being like more westerny. That was probably what it was. It was specifically the colors more than the design. But I was like, something about it, I was like, they did something. They were doing it specific, because I was like, that makes me specifically think Fallout New Vegas. Not like, oh, that makes me think of Fallout. I was like, I see Fallout New Vegas specifically when they like zoomed in on that guy's face. So they did something there where they knew it was like, this won't make you think of Fallout 3, which if it's green, then if it's not green, then of course you won't. But it was just like, man, something about it. New Vegas. But love that for sure. So of course, before I move on to my number one game, or number one moment in general, I should say, I have like my couple of honorable mentions, and these are in no particular order, so I just have them listed at the bottom. Star Wars Lego, or Lego Legacy, or whatever they call it, the Skywalker Legacy or Skywalker Saga. That caught my interest mostly because it was like, I didn't think they were going to do that. That surprised me. It's technically the second remake, but because they're doing episodes 7, 8, and 9, it's still brand new, so you see like the super updated graphics. I'm very curious if people have played both the original Star Wars Lego games plus the remake when they did the complete collection. Are those moments going to be changed? Because it was like, okay, well, you have the exact same comedic beats. Is it going to be the exact same thing, just upgraded to look cooler. So I was really curious. I was like, how does that impact episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, now that they're doing basically a second remake specifically for the prequels? Like, this will literally be the third time those games have been released as Lego games. So I was like, how is that going to work for people that did play those? Because I haven't played a Lego game, Lego Star Wars, since I think the original 3. I can't even remember if it was specifically episode 1 or if the first Star Wars Lego game was 1, 2, and 3. I don't think it was. I think it was just the first one. So I think they came out individually, and I only got the first one. So I never played the original trilogy in Lego form. So I was like, I might actually pick this up because I love the Lego games. They are still entertaining games, and it was just like, totally updated graphics. It's gonna be the complete Star Wars saga, all 3 trilogies, prequels, originals, current, and it was like, yeah, I think I might actually get that. I might end up picking it up. So it just caught my interest, but it wasn't enough to be like 1 through 10. So that was one of them. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Even though I just put DBZ Carrot because I was like, I don't know how to spell Kakarot, and his name's based off of carrots anyway. So Project Kakarot. It looks super cool. It's an RPG. The graphics look amazing. I love Dragon Ball Z. I'm a super crazy anime fan. So I was like, that looks super cool. We'll see what happens. Because I was like, they didn't show anything from Dragon Ball Super. And I was like, there is no way that this is going to stop at like DBZ Cell Saga, or it would be crazy. I don't know. It's almost impossible for me to say it would be crazy if they did that, because we have had Dragon Ball Z games since the 90s, and they have always done the same thing over and over, except for Dragon Ball Fighter Z, where it's like, it's a cool fighting game. It even has its own story. And there have been some other games that have had their own. But if it's like, here's the new Dragon Ball Z game, it is Dragon Ball Z. It's never even Dragon Ball. That's the funny thing. They've yet to do like a full series thing where it's like, it starts in Dragon Ball, which they probably just haven't figured out how to do it. And plus, people know Dragon Ball Z way better than Dragon Ball. But they just still haven't done that yet. Like, just start at Dragon Ball and go all the way up to, Dragon Ball Super. Like, where just go from Dragon Ball, all the none of the movies are canon. Just all the anime stuff, and go up to Dragon Ball Super, the Broly movie that just came out, because that counts as canon. Just do all of that, but they won't. They never do. So we'll see what happens. They did the classic. Man, it's the coolest thing ever. Goku went Super Saiyan. He's fighting Frieza. Vegeta's dead. Krillin's dead. We'll see where this actually ends up going. But I'm like, it is gonna have to start over at the beginning of Dragon Ball Z. And considering the fact that they decided to go with the beginning of the game, which they probably would make first because Super would be the end of the game. But I was still just like, they should have probably gone with, here's some content from Dragon Ball Super, even if it was early Dragon Ball Super, just so people knew, like, this is actually going to be more than what you normally expect. Because they're calling it, Dragon Ball. I mean, it's called DBZ. It was DBZ Project Kakarot. So Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball Super are 3 separate shows. So if it's just Dragon Ball Z again, I'm like, that's almost a missed opportunity. Like, I'm sure at this point, now that Super's finished, people would love to see them do a full RPG game or a Budokai Tenkaichi style, which is what I thought they were going to do, because I was like, they finished Super, they just did the movie. I thought they were going to pull out a brand new, like, Dragon Ball Tenkaichi game, and it was going to be legitimately every single thing that we've had so far, which I think is what they should do. Just legitimately go from beginning to end. Like I said, just put Dragon Ball in there. Figure out a way to do it, even if it's the smallest chunk of the game. Just throw Dragon Ball in there. I don't know. But from Dragon Ball all the way up to Super, they could even throw in the GT stuff just for people that want to have like those designs for the characters. At least those versus mode stuff. Maybe not story mode, since none of that's canon. But I was just like, I don't know. Dragon Ball Z. It wasn't like Dragon Ball Super. It didn't say just Dragon Ball, because that would have me excited too. If it said just Dragon Ball, but it showed Dragon Ball Z stuff, I'd be like, maybe they will show everything. It's going to be from the beginning to end. But once again, as always, it was DBZ. And I was like, that's a finite thing that we've seen redone about 1,800 times. So we'll see what happens. But it's Dragon Ball Z, so it caught my attention. After that, I have Elden Ring. It just seems cool. There's really not much to say. I don't care that much about George R.R. Martin. I know he does good things, but I was just like, that seems cool. It obviously, it's funny that it was George R.R. Martin, but all that stuff about the ring, it was like, man, this makes me think of Lord of the Rings, which is, of course, Tolkien. But seems cool. That's it. I didn't care that much, but it was like, could be something. After that, Halo Infinite. I've like played some of the Halo games, and that's it. So like it looks cool. I'm excited. Launch title, that surprised me because I didn't think they'd have a release date for that. I thought it was going to be like, oh, we'll see footage of it, but they're like, nope, launch title. And like the only thing we'd heard about it up until this point was that it was happening, and that was literally it. So it was like, here's this thing, and then 1 year later it's like, it's officially coming out next year. So I was like, that's kind of cool, and it looks nice. Crazy how the story seems like it's going to be going, so looking forward to that. And my last one, of course, is Keanu Reeves. The only reason this wasn't on my list was specifically because it was like, okay, love Keanu Reeves, love The Matrix, love John Wick, and Keanu Reeves just seems like a cool dude, and I'm excited for Cyberpunk, but it was just like cool. Like that was the cool part. Like honestly, seeing the game didn't matter as much as seeing him because it was just entertaining watching him and how excited he was. So it had nothing really to do with the game at all, which I'm already excited for. Like I think personally, the demo that they released last year after they put it out from E3, it was like a 43-minute demo. That was more valuable to me than seeing the CG cinematic trailer. Like it was cool, like Keanu Reeves is in it, but it wasn't like we saw a ton of stuff from the game. We got to see that you can, which they probably had in the demo. It's been a minute since I watched that, but they probably already had it in there. But you can like hack other people's abilities. Like they have it where the main character gets hacked, where like the blades are like forcibly put back in the arm and stuff. And I was like, okay, they showed that. We'll get that power. We have to have it. They show like you basically go into the Matrix, which I thought was the funniest thing. Was all like they got Keanu, and it was like, yeah, so sit here and do this, and you know to dive into this or whatever. I was like, they got Keanu Reeves and they are literally going into the Matrix inside of this game. And I just thought that was, I was like, I can't be the only person that thought that, because I was like, you're literally plugging in to go into another space. And I was like, they put the Matrix in the game and they got Keanu Reeves. There has to be a joke in there. Like somewhere in the millions of lines of dialogue that I'm sure they have, they're going to have a Matrix reference because you're plugging in. I was like, I'm going to plug you in. There's going to be something. There's got to be something because it would be such a missed opportunity. But those are all of my honorable mentions as far as like moments from the press conference. And so that leaves my number one, which is a super crazy one. I never would have expected it. Who would have ever seen this coming? Because it's the craziest thing. It's not even a franchise that anyone gives a crap about, but it was the Blair Witch game. It just caught my attention. At first I thought it was Silent Hill, because the guy's jacket was green, and I was like, I know he didn't have a dog, but it seemed like, you know, they might be doing some crazy remake and adding some new elements. And then it ends up being Blair Witch, but I just loved it. I was like, okay, there's this super creepy element where you can see people in the camera. They, of course, did the thing where he's like in the corner. I was like, there's no way that this is Blair Witch. That's insane. And then when they zoom out from the forest and they show the angle, it's like, holy crap, this is Blair Witch. Like, this doesn't even make sense. But that just looked good. I was like, man, it's super creepy. You get a dog. The dogs are great. But it just seems super creepy and it's really interesting. I saw a little bit of a demo for it where you, like the stuff that you see in the camera affects what happens in front of you. So if a door is closed, you can watch a video of someone else opening it, and then that'll open the door in front of you. Little stuff like that. I was like, all right, there's puzzle elements and weird time loop elements. Like he even watches himself from the beginning of the game. I assume it's the beginning. I was like, all of that looks insanely cool. And horror is my favorite genre. So anything that's like horror and it just really gets me just from the trailer, that's always gonna have me. So it caught my attention. I loved it. It's my number one, which is insane amongst all the other things they had. Gears 5, even though I never played the franchise. Halo, never played the franchise. A brand new console, way too expensive for me. All those things, I was just like, Blair Witch is my number one. That doesn't, even to me, that doesn't make sense. As much as I love horror, I'm like, there's no reason anyone should ever say, yeah, Blair Witch seems cool. Because they have never had anything cool with Blair Witch outside of that first movie, which isn't even that great of a movie. I've never even seen it, but I've seen enough to be like, this is not that great. It just hooked everybody because we all thought it was real. And I was like, they might have a Blair Witch game that's good. And that's insane. But that is my number one. That is my top 10 moments plus my honorable mentions. Hopefully, somewhere in there was something that you guys enjoyed. I mean, it's basically the whole conference. Somewhere in there, there's some stuff you guys liked. I hope. I think I would say Microsoft probably had the best press conference. If not Microsoft, probably Square Enix. Even though I didn't like their stuff personally, at least not everything, they had some good stuff in there for sure. They were kind of just like, here's stuff you want, here's stuff you didn't know you wanted, here's things. The Square Enix had a pretty great conference, but that's my thoughts on it. Of course, we'd love to know your top 10 or top 5, or even if there was just one thing that really stuck out to you. I would love to know what caught your attention at the Microsoft press conference for this year. What did you hate? What did you love? What did you wish we got to see? Because there's a lot of that going around just from all the conferences. Like, oh, where's this franchise? Where's that thing? Or just little stuff like that. Another thing I guess I should mention as a slight honorable mention was the controller. I was a lot more excited until I saw the interview right after, and I heard that was $180 because I was like, oh, that's really cool. You know, all these insane options and stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's $179.99, and I was like, well, I'll never have that ever. It's not worth it. That's my personal opinion. I'm also not rich. I could I could mostly buy a Switch for that. Just no. So yeah, that was a little thing. Super excited at first, and then I was like, I saw the price, and I was like, no, no. But those are my thoughts on the Microsoft press conference. I will have videos for the other press conferences. I have all my notes. I just have to put everything in order. And you know, with work, I was just super behind on everything this week, so that's why all my videos are like after all the press conferences are done. Now I'm gonna finally start putting stuff out. So, like I said, we'd love to know what you guys thought about the press conference, where you rank things, where you rank the conferences in general. What was your favorite moment from this? Least favorite moment? What did you expect? Not expect? What did you wish was there? What do you wish they probably took out to put more time into something else? So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.